As we study the story or the history of the people of Timbuktu from the 9th all the way to the 15th century, we can see how successful they were. And one of the components, or one of the reasons that they were so successful, is that they had strong love for learning. And not only that, they had a strong love for family. Family value was very important. And we today, we need that very much, because as we see our families are falling apart, once we go back to this information, we can restore respect, which we have lost. They had lots of respect amongst themselves, and they had lots of love and kindness amongst themselves. And they had another value that they had honor. They had honor. When they gave their word, they had to fulfill their word. And also they had love for the weak. They used to help the weak and the poor. Now, when a person traveled from wherever he would be traveling to come to Timbuktu, by the time he arrived in Timbuktu, they were willing, more than willing, to open their houses to give the hospitality to these people. I will tell you an incident that happened to me personally when we were traveling to Timbuktu. Our first trip, we had gone to Timbuktu. We flew to Timbuktu, but the second trip we decided that we were going to go through the desert. We were going to ride a vehicle to get to Timbuktu. Along the way, of course, due to the sand dune, we sunk. We sunk in the sand, and we had to extract our vehicle from the sand. This happened several times, but one of these times, what happened is the vehicle sunk in so deep we could not extract it. We were there for hours, struggling to try to extract the vehicle. Now, we had given up hope. Then all of a sudden we saw a tribe of Tuareg coming from a far distance, and when they came, they helped us. They helped us. This was their nature of helping. This is what they believe in, to help the guests, to help people who are traveling. And they came to help us. We were able to pull out the truck from where it was. So we gave them money. We were coming from the West. We thought that whenever somebody does something good for you, though we were from there, living in the West for quite some time, it had changed our perception. Now, what we did is we gave them money. When we gave them money, they looked at us and said to us, they mumbled something. And then they collected all the money back. They gave it back to their leader, who gave the money back to us. When we asked why they were doing it, they asked us, did you send for us? We said, no, we didn't. They said, well, God who sent us here, and we did not come here to be paid by you. And then they said, if we wanted to pay them, what they needed was some oranges that we had inside the car, inside the vehicle. When we gave them the oranges, because that was something that could benefit them right away, they did not have any needs for money. To me, this was overwhelming, because I was coming from the United States, where money, everything is money. To me, somebody telling you they don't need money, that was a little bit out of understanding after 15 years being in this country. So when we gave them the oranges, we gave several oranges to each one of them. What they did is they returned the oranges that we had given them. Each one of them only took one orange. And they said to us that to save the rest of the oranges for people who we will find along the way. Look at the mentality. The mentality was that, well, this is enough for me, therefore I have to think about my brother, who you haven't even met yet. And this is the way that the people of Timbuktu had or have been living, and we can learn so much from them. To begin with, if you look around you today, there are so many conflicts in the world. And in these conflicts, we believe, or some of these conflicts can be solved through the information that we have in the manuscript of the University of Timbuktu. To give you an example, recently there were manuscripts that were found. The manuscript, they are called the manuscript of the Scholars of Peace. There was a group of scholars from the University of Timbuktu who used to go from region to region to solve problems or conflicts between or among people. Now, the American government today, with the 9/11, they are interested in this manuscript. They see it as a conflict resolution material or vehicle. That is one example. And another example, if you look at the education system at the University of Timbuktu, you could not have graduated until you know what the responsibility of education is. What does that mean? That means that once you are educated, you are responsible to make sure that this information is passed along to generations to come. And that burden of responsibility, you carry it. But not only to make sure that the information is being passed along, but to make sure that there is no discrimination in handing down this information, which is unlike the education system of today. And there are many other benefits, such as the methods of teachings of the university, and who knows what these manuscripts actually have, which can solve many of the diseases or many of the problems and many things that we have today. If you study the history, you can see that there always has been a lack of the writing or the contribution of African scholars. Some of the scholars went to the extent of saying that Africa never had written language. Now, we know that the reality is, where I came from, I came from the descendants of Sheikh Ahmed of the Fulani Empire of Masina. We were taught, we know our ancestors knew how to read and write. Now, when I was involved in this project, I go to Atlanta and I meet a person who was educated, a teacher at school. She comes to me and says, I didn't know African people had written language. I didn't know African wrote books of chemistry, physics, and mathematics. And you could look at her face, how proud she felt. She became dignified for the simple fact that I was telling her, well, this is a legacy that has been written by our forefathers. And not only that, she called her daughter to show her daughter, did you see that the Africans have written, our forefathers have written? So this preservation, restoration is going not only to restore the manuscript, but also is going to restore people. When we got involved, most of the manuscripts were in such a dilapidated state. Not only that, the manuscripts were being sold to tourists for food money, people who do not know the intellectual importance of these manuscripts. We were able to jointly with the Malian government to educate the people, private owners of these libraries, to stop selling them to tourists. And we were able to, jointly with the Malian government, to collect thousands of these manuscripts to bring them to a center we call Ahmed Baba Center, where we began to do the preservation process. And also we were able to bring about a awareness campaign around the country, here in the United States and around the world, where we educated people about the importance and what's happening to this manuscript and why getting involved into the preservation process is so important to the whole humanity. Because this is, after all, this is the human, or this is the legacy of the whole humanity. As we have mentioned, the Timbuktu Foundation, one of our goals and objectives is that we wanted to preserve, restore, and translate these manuscripts, yet to disseminate them to the entire humanity. This will benefit every individual who wants to be benefited by this information. We do not believe that in order for this legacy to benefit the society, we have to keep it in an archive or not to disseminate it to the people. Therefore, we think that everyone who wants to participate has a role to play, because what we wanted to do is, inshallah, is to have this information get to the regular person on the street. And unlike if we do it like universities do it, where this information will be kept in archives for research, we think that the manuscripts have so much to offer to every one of us. Therefore, it has to reach the people. Besides establishing the awareness campaign, we have the Timbuktu. We have established the Timbuktu Literacy Program. What is the Timbuktu Literacy Program? Is we taking directly from this the manuscript, the methods of teaching of the University of Timbuktu, and we implementing it in today's education system. What that will do is that it will enable our students to learn the way that the people learned in Timbuktu. Mind you, the people in Timbuktu, before you even go to the second level, you would have been able to speak several languages, which is very important for today. And also, we have begun our cultural exchange. This cultural exchange is when we take people to Timbuktu, and we assign families for them, and they learn from each other. The American family or the Western family or family in the diaspora can teach the African family what they do not know, and the African family can remind the Western family, African American in particular, what they have forgotten.